I think this was the plan all along. It was to sort of build King Charles up and Britain to the idea that our king is finally going to get to see his grandchildren again, and then to whip that away from the king.
This is cruel to do to King Charles, to tease him with a potential visit to his grandchildren, and then when Harry doesn't get his way, rip the opportunity away.
Yeah, all of the above, all of the things that you said, Kinsey. It's a tool that he's using to try and leverage getting that security.
I'm told that Harry is basically retreating into paranoia, severe depression, anxiety, that he's been crying over this.
Sheer stupidity. That is the only explanation for the last week and a half or so of news regarding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's alleged return to the UK. It is sheer unbelievable stupidity, imbecility, idiocracy, so many things, like so many adjectives for being absolutely some of the dumbest people on the face of the planet when least comes to royal news.
If you cared about security so much, why the hell are you telling the bad guys where you're gonna be?
I've been told that Harry in tears, like his voice breaking when he's been speaking to people on the phone.
I mean,
I'm hearing that Harry is reportedly struggling with intense worry and emotional pressure, with some reports claiming the situation has left him deeply upset. People said to be close to him describe emotional phone calls where his voice reportedly shakes, suggesting just how difficult this period has become. But what makes this story stand out is that many commentators believe these emotions didn't appear in isolation. Instead, some feel the situation unfolded in a way that gradually raised hopes that King Charles and the wider public might finally witness a long-awaited family reunion. Then, just as optimism started building, those expectations appeared to fade almost as quickly as they arrived, leaving many people disappointed and searching for answers. The emotional weight of the story becomes even greater when considering reports that King Charles has not seen his grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, in several years following the family's attendance at Queen Elizabeth II's funeral events. For a short period, the possibility of a reunion appeared surprisingly real. Reports circulating at the time included specific locations, timelines, and plans that made the proposal seem credible. According to royal commentators, King Charles was said to be cautiously hopeful despite the years of public disagreements, legal disputes, the memoir, and the documentary that had complicated family relationships. Many believe this could have been a small first step toward rebuilding communication and easing long-standing tensions. Yet, almost as quickly as those hopes surfaced, they seemed to disappear.
And then on Friday, just a couple of days ago, so Friday, June 27th, we got an itinerary for them. What event Meghan was supposed to be at. You know, what sort of the plans were. They were going to go visit Diana's gravesite in Althorp, and they were going to go to a hospital together. And then on Saturday, it was, no, whoopsie daisy. We didn't get the security that we wanted, so yeah, now the kids and Meghan aren't going.
The backdrop was also that poor King Charles has not seen his beloved grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, for 4 years. They last came, I think, for the Queen's funeral.
Harry and Meghan did decide to announce it to all of the media privately on Friday, and they revealed that Meghan would be visiting a hospital. Of course she would, in her first UK engagement for 6 years. Here was the reporting in the Sussexes,
leaving observers surprised by how rapidly everything changed. As events unfolded, confusion only continued to grow. Royal watchers found themselves wondering what had happened behind the scenes to completely reshape the narrative. This is where the story reportedly takes another unexpected turn, as behind-the-scenes discussions became the subject of growing media attention. Imagine a quiet Friday evening, shortly before 9 p.m., when a respected royal editor published what appeared to be an encouraging report about an upcoming visit. The article described the possibility that Archie and Lilibet could visit Princess Diana's resting place for the first time, a moment many viewed as emotionally significant. It also suggested that Meghan could return to the UK for a public hospital engagement, something many believed might signal improving family relations. The overall tone was optimistic, giving many readers the impression that meaningful progress could finally be taking shape. Then, less than a day later, everything appeared to change. Within roughly 21 hours, the discussion shifted dramatically. Instead of focusing on reunion plans, headlines began concentrating on security arrangements, with reports suggesting concerns over proposed protections. The sudden reversal left many observers puzzled, wondering what could have changed in such a short period. Additional reports then claimed Harry was reconsidering whether Meghan and the children would travel at all. Almost overnight, what had been presented as a hopeful family visit became surrounded by uncertainty. Two very different versions of the same story were now circulating publicly.
You don't go and say something like, definitively, we're going to the UK, if you don't know if the security you delusionally think you need is going to be there. If the government says no, which it should have, by the way, you don't say anything until you're sure. And if you're just going to, I think some people think Harry and Meghan just enjoy the chaos.
Well, just literally 21 hours later, security stub. Harry may not bring Meghan and the kids to UK next month as security request rejected days after King's olive branch.
Friday,
Yes.
they privately sent an itinerary of their trip to the WhatsApp group that the Sussex communication team manages. It was Saturday where Harry leaked to the media that he, in fact, did not get the security. The meltdown begins on Saturday, where Harry tells some outlets, I did not get the security that I expected to get.
Leaving many people asking the same question. Which account most accurately reflected what was really happening behind closed doors? Several individuals described as being familiar with the situation offered their own perspectives, but rather than clearing things up, the different accounts only made the picture more complicated. One particular detail quickly stood out. Reports indicated there had been no confirmed changes to Harry's official security arrangements during the period in question. Multiple accounts stated that the overall security framework remained the same, with no publicly announced revisions to threat assessments, no new legal rulings, and no confirmed policy updates. According to several published reports, the arrangements introduced after Harry stepped back from royal duties had remained consistent throughout this period. That detail made the changing headlines even more intriguing. If no major developments had been publicly confirmed regarding security, many began asking why the overall narrative had shifted so dramatically. Some commentators suggested the renewed attention surrounding security may have reflected growing media discussion rather than confirmed operational changes. Others noted that speculation surrounding possible reviews had circulated for months before any official information emerged. As a result, one key question continued to dominate public conversation. If little had changed publicly, what caused the headlines themselves to change so suddenly?
We just have to stick to the facts here. There was never a change to security. There was never any indication that there was going to be a change to security. Harry's security situation has been exactly this since Megxit.
That would have been intelligence provided both by MI5 and MI6 to see if there had been any amplification of threat, obviously against Harry or Meghan. And as soon as they would find out that there's nothing notable on their radar, no intelligence that's coming in to construe that there would be anything serious in terms of a threat against them, over and beyond just being people in the public eye, then there's every good likelihood they'd say, you know what, why are we going to bother going through the rest of that process if we haven't got the origins and foundation from which to necessitate doing an actual full review?
If they knew the security was outstanding, which I think they did, the security had to be outstanding. And that makes sense. It takes a while to do a security evaluation and then they can release officers if needed. They did the security evaluation and they're like, yeah, no, there's just no reason. And Harry and Meghan are like, but we just told everybody.
That question has attracted considerable attention from royal commentators, journalists, and analysts trying to understand what may have influenced the evolving reports. Some wondered whether the changing narrative reflected Harry's own position, while others believed additional factors behind the scenes could have contributed. To provide context, several security specialists also shared their professional views, including Will Geddes, a well-known security consultant with experience advising high-profile individuals. His comments offered insight into how security planning for prominent public figures is often evaluated. Over many years, Will Geddes has worked with high-profile clients and has frequently commented on complex security matters involving public figures. When discussing the reported family visit, Geddes shared his professional opinion that Meghan appeared to have significant influence over the family's decisions surrounding the trip, more so than Harry. It is important to note that this represents Geddes's personal assessment based on his professional experience and should not be viewed as a confirmed account of private family discussions or an established fact. Looking further into his analysis, Geddes suggested that if Harry had been making these decisions on his own, he might not have pursued enhanced security arrangements with the same level of determination. From Geddes's perspective,
I think this is primarily driven by Meghan. I think Harry, to a certain extent, probably couldn't care less. I think Meghan is looking for the whole prestige, the whole pomp and circumstance, all the dressings that would come from association or being part of the royal family.
I think for Meghan to keep Harry away from the UK, because she's good at manipulating him, I think, and only because he's a dense dude. Her manipulation skills are meager at best, but he's dumb, so he falls for it.
Where the principal will dab their fingers into the fire, and trips to Ukraine is a great example. So what they'll try and do is they'll go, look, I am a risk, that people are out to get me, there is a threat against me. And I've seen this with principals who I've usually subsequently dropped, that they go and invite trouble, and they try and provoke situations and reactions.
this pointed to a possible difference in priorities within the couple. It is important to emphasize, however, that this reflects Geddes's professional opinion rather than a confirmed account of private discussions or decision-making. One of the comments that attracted the most attention was Geddes's suggestion that Meghan was seeking a level of official protection normally associated with the highest-ranking state figures. He referred to measures such as police motorcades, temporary road closures, and other extensive security arrangements that are generally reserved for senior officials carrying out official duties. Geddes questioned whether those expectations aligned with the couple's current circumstances after stepping back from working royal responsibilities several years ago. Perhaps the most talked about point in Geddes's remarks involved Harry's own security team. According to Geddes, he believed the team felt the proposed visit could be handled safely without requiring additional armed personnel. In his view, their position appeared calm and straightforward, suggesting they were confident in managing the situation under existing arrangements. That apparent difference between the reported requests and the assessment of Harry's own security professionals became, in Geddes' opinion, one of the central issues surrounding the discussion. Exactly what outcome Harry and Meghan were hoping to achieve remains uncertain. Geddes also suggested that some of Harry's recent international visits, including trips to Ukraine and Nigeria, may have strengthened arguments in favor of increased security during future travel. Once again, this represents Geddes' personal interpretation based on his experience rather than a confirmed explanation from Harry or Meghan themselves.
Honestly, it was so obvious that Prince Harry was using this trip to the United Kingdom as another bargaining tool, as another attempt to bounce his father, as emotional blackmail.
King Charles is a serious man. He knows where his power begins and ends. He has no power to make that decision. He cannot preside over government decisions. The decision on who to give armed police protection to in terms of the royal family is the government's consideration.
And if his security team can't manage him, the wife, and the kids coming to the UK, he is more than welcome to give me a call.
Well, that's a nice offer.
That naturally led many commentators to ask whether the debate involved more than security considerations alone. This is where the conversation takes another interesting turn. Some royal commentators have put forward a theory that has generated considerable discussion online and across the media. While there is no confirmed evidence supporting this idea, supporters of the theory believe the reports surrounding the proposed visit may have helped build anticipation and optimism, particularly for King Charles. According to this interpretation, the public discussion may have created hope that he would finally have another opportunity to spend time with his grandchildren. The theory goes a step further by suggesting that if security concerns later place the visit in doubt, public disappointment could increase pressure for a solution to be found. Some observers believe that growing public attention might encourage greater efforts toward making a family meeting possible. Even so, this remains entirely speculative, and there is no confirmed evidence that such a strategy existed. There is also a significant challenge to that theory. Under the United Kingdom's security system, King Charles does not personally decide the level of protection provided in cases like these. Responsibility for these decisions rests with the appropriate government authorities, including the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, commonly known as RAVEC. Even if King Charles wished to influence security arrangements, the established process does not give the monarch direct authority over those operational decisions. According to Will Geddes, this independent structure is specifically designed to ensure that personal relationships and family connections do not determine official security assessments.
Really come out against the Duke, saying paranoid Prince Harry has betrayed everyone and will sacrifice anyone to get what he wants. And he says at the heart of the discredited Sussex brand sits a man, Harry, in the throes of some kind of profound mental dysfunction.
If you're going to start throwing your toys out the pram and behaving like a spoiled brat, which is ultimately what he's doing, then they're going to be somewhat resistant to not going above and beyond in terms of facilitation.
We suspect that they're at that luxury resort that Jack Brooksbank's managers, and where they're said to have purchased the property. But it was in People magazine, which, as we know, is the sort of school magazine of the Sussexes, where they put all their notices. So they are in Portugal. But yeah, I've been told that Harry in tears, like his voice breaking when he's been speaking to people on the phone.
Geddes explained that RAVEC operates according to established procedures intended to apply consistent standards to every case. Its role is to evaluate security requirements based on professional assessments rather than personal feelings, family circumstances, or public opinion. That separation is considered an important safeguard intended to maintain fairness and consistency throughout the decision-making process. He also pointed to a broader issue. Geddes argued that creating exceptions for one individual could encourage similar requests from others in comparable situations. If special arrangements became common outside established guidelines, it could gradually weaken confidence in the consistency of the overall system. From his perspective, maintaining the same standards for everyone is an essential part of preserving the integrity of the process. During the discussion, Geddes briefly lightened the mood with a joke. He remarked that if Harry's own security team truly believed they could not manage a family visit, Harry was welcome to contact him directly. While clearly made in a light-hearted way, the comment reflected Geddes' confidence that the existing security framework was capable of handling situations involving high-profile individuals. Even with that moment of humor, public discussions surrounding the reported visit continued to grow. Attention soon shifted to reports about Harry's emotional well-being. Journalist Tom Sykes reported claims that Harry had sounded deeply emotional during private phone conversations while the family was reportedly in Portugal. According to those reports,
I think for Harry, the bruised ego of not being important anymore is really behind so much of this security delusion. This was an incredibly stupid decision. I've said that a lot, but it is true. It's dumb. They look like imbeciles.
We are hearing that the king has reportedly offered accommodation at a royal residence. And I've heard that before, like in years past, that the king has offered Harry a place to stay and Harry's denied it. So I'm not too surprised by this. I think there's additional outrage because Meghan's in the loop and people don't want her to fall back into a princess moment where she feels like she's back in the fold because she's under a royal roof. But from a security standpoint, does staying inside a royal estate significantly reduce risk? I mean, I think that's how can you complain about security when you've got armed guards outside Buckingham Palace?
Of course, writes on behalf of Buckingham Palace as the head of the Royal Rota, said that after a week of claim, counterclaim, reverse ferreting and suggestions about what individuals may think, as regards reports Prince Harry has accepted an offer of accommodation on the royal estate, no such overture is understood to have been received by the royal household.
His voice occasionally appeared strained, leading some observers to believe he was under considerable emotional pressure. Anonymous sources also described what they viewed as increasing anxiety and concern surrounding Harry's state of mind. However, these descriptions originated from unnamed sources and have not been independently confirmed. On the surface, such reports might have encouraged widespread sympathy, presenting the image of someone facing a difficult emotional period while dealing with complicated family circumstances. Many people might naturally expect that kind of story to generate understanding. Instead, public discussion appeared to become increasingly divided. Rather than creating universal sympathy, the report sparked a new wave of criticism across parts of the media. Several commentators who had previously expressed understanding adopted a much more critical tone. Opinion pieces questioned Harry's reported actions and decisions, while some commentators used strong personal descriptions that attracted significant attention. Others compared his reported reactions to an emotional outburst, reflecting how sharply public opinion had shifted. At the same time, many observers cautioned that emotional reports based on anonymous sources should be treated carefully, particularly when the full context remains unknown. As this story draws to a close, one thing becomes increasingly clear. Few families in the world live under the level of public attention that surrounds the royal family. Every public appearance, every reported meeting, every interview, and every headline is examined from countless different angles.
Palace's role in this as well, and they can't control what Harry and Meghan do. Of course they cannot. But I think, again, that their lack of being able to manage the narrative, manage Harry and Meghan in many ways, and shut things down if things either aren't true or if it's in the middle of a negotiation, something like that. The palace is just constantly letting these things churn, and it does make the palace look bad too.
So as Brittany of the Royal News Network put it, being part of Harry and Meghan's PR team must be absolute hell. The series of absolute blunders over their just 5-day visit is insane. One of them is Chris Shipp, who is the royal editor for Woke ITV News, and he has actually been community noted on X over this. So he posted the arguments over Prince Harry's UK security rumble on. Now Harry considering not bringing Meghan and children with him to UK next week after being told he will get nothing more than the police phone number for a liaison officer. Whatever your view of Harry and Meghan and their decision to leave the royal family, it seems bizarre that King Charles's son and grandchildren, who are 5th, 6th and 7th in line to the British throne, get zero public security, but Taylor Swift does when she is in the UK.
Supporters, critics, journalists, royal commentators, and casual observers often reach very different conclusions after reading the very same reports. That reality makes separating confirmed information from speculation more important than ever. Throughout this story, we've looked at reports surrounding Prince Harry, King Charles, security discussions, media coverage, and the wider public reaction that followed. While many reports have generated intense debate, it is also worth remembering that much of the conversation has been driven by commentary rather than official confirmation. In today's media landscape, stories can evolve rapidly as new reports emerge, sometimes creating very different narratives within only a matter of hours. That is exactly what made this situation attract so much attention. One moment, headlines focused on the possibility of a family reunion. The next, the conversation shifted almost entirely towards security arrangements and uncertainty over future plans. For people following the story, the rapid change naturally raised questions about what had happened behind the scenes. While many theories have circulated, only those directly involved truly know the complete picture. Royal stories have always attracted worldwide attention because they combine public responsibility with deeply personal family relationships. Unlike most families, private disagreements often become front-page news, with millions of people forming opinions before every detail becomes fully understood. Every statement is analyzed, every photograph is examined, every reported conversation becomes another topic for debate.
Those were totally two different situations. The security for Taylor's events were the result of terrorist threats against her concerts. That's why they did it. That's why they moved some of her concerts that I think were originally supposed to be in Austria to London because of threats. And so when you are gathering 100,000 people in a stadium for a concert, and of course with the history of the Manchester terrorist attack against an Ariana Grande concert, the government has a right to be concerned about a situation like that.
Ariana Grande is a fantastic comparable example because obviously the Manchester Arena bombing in 2017 by Salman Abedi was a horrific attack against not against Taylor necessarily, but against her audience. And many children died in that horrific suicide attack. So when we look at Harry and Meghan,
Harry, in this instance, I hate to tell him this, but he's constitutionally irrelevant, and so are his children. And as time marches on, and this happens in every single royal family, as time marches on, Harry will get more and more and more irrelevant.
That level of attention creates an environment where even relatively small developments can quickly become international headlines. A single interview, a court ruling, a charity appearance, or an anonymous report can dominate news cycles across multiple countries. As information spreads rapidly through television, newspapers, websites, podcasts, and social media, opinions often develop just as quickly. At the same time, the public continues to distinguish between verified information and personal interpretation. Many respected journalists carefully separate confirmed reporting from analysis, while commentators often provide their own perspectives based on experience covering the royal family. Those viewpoints can offer useful context, but they should not automatically be treated as established fact. The discussion surrounding security also illustrates how complicated these issues can become. Security planning for high-profile individuals involves numerous factors that are rarely visible to the public. Operational assessments, official procedures, government agencies, and professional recommendations all play a role in determining appropriate arrangements. Because much of that process remains confidential, outside observers often have only limited information when trying to understand why certain decisions are made. That lack of complete information naturally leaves room for public discussion.
Catherine, the Princess of Wales, that has just been announced, has completed the 3 Peaks Challenge for the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity. And when you think about Catherine and compare it, again, to the stupidity we are going to go over, I just feel like Catherine is just an example of how royals can do it really, really well. Greeted at the base of Snowdon on Sunday evening by Prince William, their 3 children, her parents, Carol and Michael Middleton, and brother James.
Some people believe existing arrangements are appropriate, while others argue different approaches should be considered. Both viewpoints continue to appear throughout media coverage, reflecting how differently people interpret the same circumstances. Beyond security, this story has also highlighted how powerful public perception can be. In today's digital world, headlines travel around the globe within minutes. A single report can influence public opinion long before additional information becomes available. As follow-up articles appear, earlier assumptions are sometimes reinforced, challenged, or completely reshaped. That constant flow of information has changed how royal stories unfold. Years ago, people might have waited for newspapers the next morning. Today, developments appear around the clock, creating an ongoing conversation that rarely pauses. Every update becomes part of a much larger narrative that continues evolving over days, weeks, and sometimes years. One aspect that remains especially fascinating is how differently people interpret the same events. Some observers focus primarily on family reconciliation and hope relationships can eventually improve. Others pay closer attention to institutional responsibilities, constitutional traditions, and the long-term stability of the monarchy. Still others are most interested in the human side of the story, recognizing that disagreements within families can be incredibly complicated regardless of public status. That variety of perspectives explains why discussions surrounding the royal family remain so active. There is rarely complete agreement, and each new development often generates another wave of conversation. While opinions may differ, interest in the future of these relationships remains remarkably strong around the world. At the same time, charitable work continues to be an important part of the royal family's public role. Throughout the years, many members of the family have supported organizations dedicated to healthcare, education, veterans, conservation, youth programs, and countless other causes. Those efforts often receive less attention than controversy, yet they continue to make a meaningful impact for many communities.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills. But more importantly, it's to give something back and acknowledge really all the incredible work going on up and down this country. I've met some incredible people, those people who are living with and beyond cancer. And I know personally how difficult that journey is.
King doesn't miss Prince Harry. The king does not recognize this Prince Harry. You know, the king is not going to bend over backwards because he doesn't even know who this new person is that has developed over the last few years, capable of writing such a hateful book, capable of participating in a docuseries which accuses the royal family of racism, years of racism, you know, and all of the chaos that they've stirred in the last few years.
Catherine's participation in the National Three Peaks Challenge is one example of how charitable initiatives can inspire positive discussion. Rather than focusing on disagreement or public debate, the event highlighted determination, teamwork, and fundraising for an important cause. Many people viewed it as a reminder that public service remains a significant part of royal life, even when headlines elsewhere are dominated by family tensions. Stories like that often provide a different perspective on the monarchy. They remind audiences that alongside highly publicized disagreements, there are also ongoing efforts centered around charity, community support, and encouraging awareness for important organizations. Those quieter moments may not always dominate the headlines, but they remain an important part of the broader picture. Looking ahead, many questions remain unanswered. Will relationships within the family gradually improve over time? Could future private conversations lead to greater understanding? Or will the differences that have developed over recent years continue to shape the public narrative for the foreseeable future? At this stage, nobody outside the family can answer those questions with certainty. History has shown that relationships within the royal family can evolve over time. Circumstances change, priorities shift, and perspectives sometimes develop in unexpected ways. Whether that ultimately happens here remains something only time will reveal. For now, the public conversation continues. Every official appearance, every reported meeting, and every new interview will likely be examined just as closely as those that came before. As always, separating confirmed reporting from speculation will remain one of the most important parts of understanding these stories. Regardless of where individual opinions fall, one thing is undeniable. Public fascination with the royal family remains as strong as ever. Stories involving history, tradition, duty, family relationships, and public service continue to capture worldwide attention in a way few other subjects can. As new developments emerge, there will undoubtedly be fresh discussions, new reports, and different interpretations from journalists and commentators across the globe. That's simply the nature of following a family whose lives are constantly under international scrutiny. What do you think about everything we've covered today? Do you believe the media sometimes moves too quickly when reporting developing royal stories? Do you think public commentary has become more influential than ever? And where do you see these family relationships heading in the future? We'd love to hear your perspective, so leave your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation respectfully. If you enjoyed this video and want more in-depth coverage of major royal stories and public events, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe so you don't miss future updates, and share it with friends and family who enjoy following the latest royal news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.